It's gonna be a long one, guys. Welcome back to PC Gamer Girl. My name is Gray, as I'm sure you know by now. And we are playing the letter again. Because from what I saw yesterday, I've probably got a good 6 or 7 more hours of this game left. That is unbelievable to me. It is such a good game, but holy crap, it is so long. But I got my water bottle right next to me, and I'm ready. So let's do this. Oh, don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. Ha! No, let's do this. Who are we playing? We're playing Rebecca, and I believe we just left the cafe after beating the hell out of Luke, and we're going to see Isabella now. A cloudless night sky greets me when I walk out of the cafe. Beyond the tall buildings, a blanket of stars spreads out before me. Isabella once told me that the best place to view it is someplace outside the city, away from the noise and the obtrusive lights. She'd seen it once in her mom's hometown, and another time in the university she used to attend. Then she asked if it's possible to try it out here sometime. I agreed with her at the time, if only because she appeared excited at the mere prospect of it. We made those little plans along with Zachary and Ashton. Though up until now, we never got around to it. Even so, I find myself enjoying this, despite being told it's only half the experience. Little things, you know? Stuff you learn to appreciate when you're alone. Because at certain times you get to meet people who are unfortunately born with the innate talent to ruin the mood and the scene with their mere existence alone. For example, the very driver of the car fast approaching my direction. Luckily, he doesn't notice me. But the fleeting moment we pass each other by gives me a brief glance of the people he's with. Oh, it's Luke. Kylie's sitting on the back seat with a serving of bread pudding in her hands. Oh no, oh no, oh no, and beside him, it must be his wife. It's not. He takes a turn and disappears at the nearest corner. But throughout the night, that cursory glimpse of all things to bother me has left me wondering what kind of person his wife is. And more than that is a silent prayer to the universe. I hope I don't ever cross paths with that douche again. I'm so congested this morning. It is like 80 degrees outside, and it's so hot in this room because I still don't have an air conditioner in it. Ugh, it's miserable. After having such an eventful day, anyone will think nothing will surprise me anymore. But here I am, standing at the top of the stairwell, watching an odd scene unfold before me. Relief crosses my mind first, followed by confusion.
What is she doing there?
Although, given what happened this morning, the question feels a bit inappropriate to ask directly. What's important is that Isabella's here. She's sitting cross-legged on the hallway, just right in front of her room, with several papers and folders scattered about. Each of them seems as important as the next. More than once, upon giving the scene a quick glance, I spot Briar Realty's logo at the topmost area of the pages. Everything considered, it looks like a mess made by a third grader working on crunch time. The landlady will have a few things to say about this when she finds out. I have a few things to say about this myself, in fact. Of course you do. Because everybody's got to make Rebecca happy, right? But something in the calm, focused manner she holds herself at present keeps me from disturbing her with that reminder. She's going through each paper with this intensity. Her brows are furrowed, lips in a tight line, both hands moving in precise movements as she shifts through each sheet. When she finds something of note, she moves closer, nose almost touching whatever paper she's holding, and grabs her phone to call someone.
Hello. Sorry to call you this late. There's something I just want to confirm, if that's okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thanks anyway. Not that one either.
It's a cycle. She goes through call after call, then after the last one ends, she shuffles through the pile again and dials another number. Is it work? I've never seen her this engrossed with her own work before. Otherwise, she would have noticed my presence the moment I reached our floor. After the 9th call, you stood there and watched her call someone 9 times? I mean, come on. She still appears as oblivious to it as when I arrived. When she lets out a loud sigh this time, I immediately take that as an opportunity to interrupt.
Isabella, you know the house rules here.
At once, her head jerks back and hits the concrete wall behind her with a thump. There's the Isabella I know. Glad it's still there. I allow her a moment to nurse it before speaking again.
Becca, you're late! Yeah, I ran into a little trouble at the cafe. But I brought food for the two of us, if you haven't eaten anything yet.
As anticipated, she grins once I raise the bag of food I'm holding. Yet it doesn't reach her eyes. There's nothing of the cheerful glint in it this time. Just a hollow tone for the sake of being polite. Ashton's right. Something's happened.
Yeah, maybe later. I've gotta finish this first. Just leave it here. I'll eat it once I'm done. Thanks, Becca. You can't eat this here. You know how the landlady would react. Why are you even working outside? Your room's right there. I know. Sorry. It just feels stuffy in my apartment right now. I'll go back inside once everything's been aired out. I promise. That has never bothered you before. Well, it bothers me now. Oh, really? Just now? I find that hard to believe. Yeah? Shouldn't you be happy? I mean, you've been complaining even if it's not your room. Now I know how you're feeling when it's messy, so I'm going to clean. Isn't that a good thing?
In spite of what's supposed to be good news, an exhale comes from me, drawn out and slow.
It's a good thing, Isabella. Believe me. But you're as bad as Zachary at lying. What's really going on?
She hastily averts her eyes, a surefire indicator that this is going to be one of those lengthy conversations that can possibly end with the other person angry. Again. It's one thing I'd like to avoid tonight at all costs. You know, I think Rebecca needs some anger management classes because everything seems to piss this girl off. Still, I've made a promise to Ashton and Zachary. If she didn't talk to them, who else is she going to talk to? If she keeps this all to herself, who knows what might happen?
Isabella, you can tell me.
Ugh.
Is it about your family?
A slight movement of her lips, although a frown, it's a reaction at least. I'm getting there.
Rose?
She merely shakes her head. Just a little more.
Come on, I know something happened. I don't know if it's because of Rose, but I know it's related to her somehow. You weren't here when I visited this morning, and both Zachary and Ashton are worried about you. If you don't want to tell them, you can tell me. Does it have something to do with work? Office?
If I didn't know her, I might have missed it. She shifts then, her fist clenching tight and teeth biting her lower lip. And there's fear. The look of terror in her eyes is the last thing I expected to see out of everything. Her mouth trembles briefly before she opens them. When she finally voices it out, the words simply spill out of her mouth. One after another. All of it. True to what I've promised her, I listen. Because this is something she's been keeping to herself, even from the two most dependable people I know. The fact she chose to tell me speaks a lot to me.
Becca, she was there again. Last night? In the office? Boss passed me all of Rose's Lork load yesterday. For the Ermengarde mansion. I had to stay late to finish them all. And then... when I was about to go home, I saw her. I saw her again! She was standing in front of me again last night, Becca. I couldn't get away. She was blocking the door. If I hadn't hidden myself, even if I made the tiniest noise, if she found me, Becca, she almost did.
I remember that. It took me like 15 tries to avoid that girl that night.
She saw me under my table. I think that would have been the end of it. I'm scared. I'm so scared I won't be able to do anything.
By the end, her hands are trembling and her breathing comes out in raspy intervals. For a long moment, I let the silence stretch out between us, let her sobs fill it instead. But even as her soft whimpers die down minutes later, there's a heaviness hanging in the air. Not just from her, but also from me. From my exasperation over this whole matter, from my own frustrations over her stupid superstitions, when she could do us all a favor and grow a backbone. She may be young, but she's no longer that young. It's about time to put an end to this. She can't keep going on like this. She's still got plenty of years to live out. And what if she goes home? What if we're no longer there to keep her fears in line with what's real? What would she do then? I'm more afraid for her, for what kind of imagination will do to her, than of what some imaginary monster could. But with the manner she's looking at me right now, there's an expectation in it, a hope and a plea sewn together. She wants me to believe her this time. If it's like that, then what am I supposed to say now? What she wants to hear, or what she needs to? You know what? I'm going to play to Rebecca's character at this. I don't think she's going to ask. I don't think she cares, really. Like, I think she's just frustrated, and it's stupid that she is, but I think that's how her character would be, so I'm just going to say this again. I hate being put in this situation. I hate being the one holding the truths people need to hear. More than all of that, I hate knowing precisely how people would react once the words are out of the open. And Isabella's never hard to figure out. You get what you see with her. When she's happy, she's happy. When she's upset, she's upset. There's no middle ground. Most of the time, it's a good thing. Sometimes it's just plain difficult. But as harsh as this is, it's what she needs to hear.
Isabella, I already told you. It's okay if you don't believe me.
Her answer is so glaringly cheerful, it makes me stop. She's avoiding my eyes when I turn to her, going through the papers again without really reading them, pretending her attention's only halfway where I need it to be. It's an obvious distraction. For her. So she won't have to listen, to look at me. Hard truths are always the toughest to face, after all.
I know you guys aren't really into that kind of stuff.
That's not what I meant. This isn't even about being into that kind of stuff.
And you never were. I've known that from the start. Oh, poor Belle.
Will you let me finish talking first?
It's okay. I know what you're going to say.
I wonder why some of the lines aren't, like, voice acted and some of them are. Like, there's been a few that have been missed. Like, 90% of them are voice acted, but some of them are missed. I wonder why that is.
You always have this weird look on you when you want to scold someone, so I know. Or I have an idea, at least. And I don't blame you. I'm aware that it's hard to believe.
Sorry, my dog's next to me again and she's distracting me with her breathing. She's like, I don't know why she insists on coming in this room when she knows how hot it is. But she sits next to me and she pants. It's like the most annoying thing. She exhales, folding her arms against her body as if to brace herself. Here's another truth she carries with her. It says, one she said to us several times already, but this time when she utters it again, it's without any expectations. Just a simple fact to be laid out, leaving it up to us to take it.
But I've seen it more than once already. I know for sure she's real.
Something in the her world, has moved, I realize. A subtle shift. A change so minute, I barely even noticed it until I already did so. Little by little, without bothering to wait, she's moving away from us. And frankly, I don't know what to make of that. Afterwards, a hush stretches out before us. For Isabella, this is rare. This isn't her. Yet, in this moment, as she fiddles with the edge of another paper near her, as she hugs her knees close to herself and lets a pensive expression linger on her, it feels strangely fitting. As if this is where everything's supposed to lead, if we allowed it too long ago. Seconds later, the moment is broken by the sound of a door easing open and a voice begging some little peace.
How many times have I told you girls not to loiter around the hallway? It's noisy. Some people here are trying to sleep. Quiet down or go do your talking inside. Millennials.
Sorry, we won't do it again.
You'd better.
That's gonna be the title of this video. Millennials. The door closes and Isabella starts gathering the mess she's made, carefully stacking them all in her arm. At a loss for what to do, I help her pick them up, and for the first time I get a closer look at it. Completely unintentional, of course. But it catches my attention nonetheless, and a confused frown makes its way to my face. Why is she looking through this? I look to her for an explanation, but she merely ignores the question in my eyes, takes the paper off my hands, and finishes cleaning up. The last paper she puts on top is a letter. the one she supposedly found in the mansion, and what's probably the root cause of this odd behavior. I shoot her a questioning look for that too, but all she gives me is a smile, and in a halting tone so completely unlike her.
Becca, I'll find a way out of this. You guys don't have to worry about me. Anyways, I should go. I'll see you later.
Where are you going?
Getting myself some food. Don't wait for me.
Isabella walks away before I can stop her, before I can remind her I've brought food enough for the two of us. She quickly disappears down the stairwell, while I'm left standing in the empty hallway holding 2 bags of takeout. One of them will go uneaten tonight. Just an innocent passing thought. One that I don't dwell much on as I head back to my room. I ignore all of it in the same way I've assumed I won't encounter that douche ever again. It's gonna be fun when she goes to the party. The brief lull the past 2 days has offered is nice while it lasted. Or as nice as it can get with the worries of Isabella's whereabouts creeping up to me every now and then. She hasn't showed up after that last talk we had in the hallway, and the dinner I've bought had since been given to a different neighbor before it spoils. By all means, this shouldn't be anything to lose sleep over. She's gone on work trips before, usually for a day or two. This might simply be one of those. Although it's often with a message saying exactly where. But it's the dour note she has ended with our last chat with that gnaws.
Like an ugly premonition.
And as expected, just as things start to settle and steadier rhythm finally worms its way back to my routine, Thursday morning brings further disturbance to the now calm waters. With little ceremony, though still enough to ripple through everything. In retrospect, I really should have seen this coming. Luxburn is a small city, relatively speaking, compared to, say, London or Glasgow. It's nothing but a tiny mass of land boasting a mere population of 68,000. But those numbers alone are nothing to scoff at when standing on busy streets. And if you pay close enough attention, faces taking the crosswalk or riding the subway will soon grow familiar. How unfortunate that out of that number, it has to be Tio fucking Luke I encounter more than once.
Oh, you know, a few problems popping up here and there that the agents failed to tell us somehow. Nothing a few hired hands can't fix, of course. I would have preferred a place near the city and something that's new to save us all the trouble. But darling wife insisted. Who am I to say no?
Ah, are you kidding me?
His smug head is the first thing I see upon turning into the hall in spite of the small crowd of parents and students gathered at the corridor for the primary's career day. It's not that he stands out. He's pretty unremarkable at first glance, frankly. However, it's his countenance that draws people's eyes to him. The manner he carries himself with all the confidence in the world, his mere presence dwarfing everything around him. I'm willing to make a bet he's also enjoying the attention it garners him, especially the ones coming from the women.
What an ass.
A single glance at him and I know immediately that one way or the other, if we ever bump into each other again, my day will effectively be ruined in some capacity. He always exudes that air. The sort that makes you want to run him over with a lorry and pass it off as an unfortunate accident. With him, it's either you want to punch him or let yourself be charmed. There's no in-between. I'll gladly do the honor of the former myself, but alas, there are people around us. Now I'm stuck with having to face one of the two.
I shouldn't have volunteered.
At the time, helping out sounded like a good idea. I have no classes left today until after lunch. I could have opted to stay at the teacher's lounge and work on my lesson plans. That means being left alone with our deputy head and his chatter. He's a good man, but crivens, he can talk anyone's ears off. So the moment an opportunity rose, I jumped on it. It's a simple task to boot. Just deliver a whole box of materials and a few posters for the event. Maybe stay around to assist if time will allow it. I just wasn't expecting him to show up here. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. Had I known, I would have stayed and suffered through our deputy's impromptu speeches about his life crises instead. But what's done is done. Going back is also out of the question. With how unexpectedly heavy the load I'm carrying is, I'd hate to lug this for a trip back just because my pride can't take another second of interaction with the guy. He's insufferable, alright, but I've had my fair share of dealings with teens, or more or less the same temperament, all considerably younger than him, and they listened. If he wants to be difficult like last time, so be it. But he can bet his sorry English ass I'm not standing down. Left with no other choice, I brace myself and suck in a breath, mustering every bit of patience I have as I step into the hall. My grip on the box tightens when I pull it closer to me, an attempt to assume a low-key air as I amble towards the room. The box is not big enough to hide my face, even with the stuff piled on top, but if all else fails, I can just hit him with it. Still, a small prayer forms in my head. If there's even one out there listening, please grant me enough restraint. Better yet, I hope he doesn't notice me at all. That'll definitely make my life easier. Seriously, how hard can it be? He's standing a few ways from the door, and there are plenty of people between us to use for cover. If I'm careful, I can just go in, hand in the stupid box to whoever's in charge, forget every plan of staying longer than necessary, and step out as soon as I can. Easy as pie. But as luck would have it, the exact moment I reach the room's threshold, someone, barrels towards me. She latches onto my waist before topping the sudden commotion with a gleeful squeal. It's Kylie, isn't it?
I knew it's you!
Yeah. The force of it nearly throws me off balance, sending the items stacked atop the box tilting dangerously to the sides. With the child's added weight at my waist, pinning me to the spot, and both of my hands occupied, washing is the only thing I'm able to do. The short seconds in between slows, and everything gradually slides off the box's small surface. Under the different circumstances, this would have made for a funny story some other time. Comical, even. Until another set of hands reaches out and steadies the posters, threatening to take a nosedive right to this floor. Careful now, Daisy. Oh god, it's Luke. My entire body freezes. Upon hearing his voice alone, an irrational impulse to hit him immediately bubbles up. I'm telling you, she needs some anger management. Like, she needs to deal with some of her own issues. But before my limbs could catch up with what my brain is currently screaming at me, he moves to take the burden off my arms. Irritation gives way to surprise, then confusion. It's in that moment when the instinct finally kicks in and I tug the box closer to me before he can finally lift off.
What are you doing?
Fully lifted off. God.
What does it look like? You're surprisingly slow on the uptake for someone of your profession, aren't you? Bloody, doesn't this school have people for this kind of work? So much for being a center of academic excellence.
I'm going to ignore that slight to my alma mater and my work, because that's not what I'm trying to get at. You know what? Why don't we just rephrase that to something you'll easily understand? Why exactly are you doing this?
Well, you look like you could use a bit of help. Have you seen your face while you were heaving this around?
Mister, I'm pretty sure if there's ever a look on my face, it's entirely because I saw something extremely unpleasant this morning.
Aren't you a ball of sunshine today, Daisy? Having a bad day, aren't we?
Oh, you have no idea.
I'd put it away if I were you. You might scare the children.
You don't have to worry about that. This isn't my department. I was just asked to bring these. Anyway, I can handle this myself, mister. The room's just right over there. Behind you, in fact. Now, if you could please move over and make way, it would do the whole world some good.
It's kind of like listening to, 30-year-old Hermione and 30-year-old Ron argue with each other, isn't it? Like, it's a very, weird sexual tension. Keeping my voice level throughout is a miracle in itself, but regardless of how polite my request is, he doesn't budge. Did what I've just said merely fly over his head? Or my choice of words really that difficult to comprehend? Surely it shouldn't be that hard. I think we might be a little touched in the head. I'd like to ask him that actually, but Kylie chooses that instead to pipe in.
Don't worry, Miss Pink. Tio's strong. You can leave this to him. My papa does it lots of times. But I'm not allowed to talk about it to anyone. Tio says it's
confidential, Munchkin.
That's right. Tio's smart, isn't he, Miss Pink?
Sure. I'm still of the opinion that he's a piece of shite, but I must admit his goddaughter's excitement is contagious, as always. A smile makes its way to my lips. She is yet to budge from her place, though to be honest, I'm starting to lose some feeling on my stomach with how tightly she's wound her arms around it.
I'm sure he is, Kylie. But I'm also sure he'll find better use for it elsewhere.
Like helping you out.
Oh, well, that's one thing, but
You heard the kid.
no one's asking you.
Oh, you wound me, woman.
And I'm quite certain I can do more damage than that. Shall we give it a try? Again?
He pales, stammers for a bit, until he ultimately decides against saying anything and settles for a brief show of discomfort instead. He's probably having flashbacks of the last time we met. His composure, when he finally regains some of his bearings, says it all. It's nothing short of hilarious, if I do say so myself.
I'll have you know that threats never work on me, Daisy. Not in a million years, not ever.
You're assuming it's a threat. How cute.
That too. I'm not scared of you, just because you landed a hit.
Do go on. Keep telling yourself that.
It was a fluke, you hear? I was caught off guard and your damn book left a dent. If I end up in a hospital because of what you did, I'm sending the chief of Luxburg Police after you, woman.
That's what I said last episode.
You don't say.
Just give me that bloody box.
He snatches it out of my arms before a single word of protest exits my mouth and quickly disappears behind the classroom. Not that it matters who brings it in now. My prior irritation has already melted into amusement. He's not so bad once you figure out how his temperament works. It's almost similar to a child. Though I still have to ask.
Kylie, did your Tio eat something bad before coming here? He's unusually nice today.
A far-fetched idea, I know, but it's the only reason I can think of why this arsehole is suddenly acting like a decent human he is. He's quite frankly far from being. First and foremost, we didn't end our last meeting on a good note. If I were him, I'd avoid the very person who put a dent on his skull, as he so aptly put it. Why is he acting friendly 2 days later?
He always is. But I made him promise to be extra nice to you since you helped me so much. I think you're gonna be great friends.
I quickly stomp on the urge to groan loudly or gag at that. He's the last person I've ever wanted to be chummy with in this whole city, but Kylie doesn't need to know that.
Are you sure it's not something he ate during breakfast?
I gave him some jelly babies this morning. Really brought me lots of them. Mama said I should share, so I offered half of it to Tio when he picked me up. He likes the black ones.
Ugh, licorice is gross.
Oh, that's probably why he's weird. Jelly baby overdose.
He could have done everyone a favor and choked on them while he's at it.
Do you want some? I've got more. I couldn't find Melody or Takanko this morning, but I'm sure they'll be fine sharing some of it with you.
No, I'm not really very fond of them. I was just asking. Oh, where's your mum, by the way?
Out of town with Papa.
An unexpected pang hits me at her words. The statement, though innocent enough, unearths a whole trunk of memories from my childhood. So eerily familiar. Nights spent eating dinners alone, the number of days coming home to an empty house growing with each passing year. And sometimes, several Christmas Eves spent with relatives instead of my own family. It's too late to think about now, but when I remember, the dull ache is still there, familiar though lessened by the years now. Beside me, Kylie takes a step back, having gotten tired of clinging to me. There's nothing but cheer in her. She doesn't seem too affected by the fact. Although it makes me wonder how much of it is real, and how much is there to mask the loneliness, if there's even one. What a lucky child.
Weren't they informed of career day beforehand?
Yeah, I told them all about it. Mama was looking forward to it.
And they still left?
Uh-huh. It's important business, so it can't be helped. They promised to tell me about it when they come back tomorrow, though. Papa said he'll give me a gift if I behave. I've been a good girl, right, Miss Pink?
You always are. But they asked they asked your Tio to look after you? For this?
Nope, they didn't.
No? Then how?
It was supposed to be Tia. Mama likes her better than Tio, so she asked her, but she's sick and had to visit the doctor today. Oh, that's supposed to be a secret, by the way. Oh, but I think it's a bit confusing because Tio said she also went shopping. That's unfair. Don't you think so, Miss Pink? Mama doesn't allow me to go out when I'm sick. It's still okay, though, since Tio always buys me sweets before we go home. I'm I'm gonna ask for a parfait today. Extra large.
This kid is gonna grow up like a sugarholic.
Don't doubt the cockle, okay?
Listening to her like this, it's easy to get a picture of where Kylie's fondness for the guy comes from. She's far from a demanding child unless you've made a promise of some sort. She never forgets those. She'll make friends with anyone wherever she is. Buy her a few things and voila, you're settled. No wonder she's so attached to the man. The douche probably showers her with gifts whenever he can. I can't say if the sentiment's the same for the latter, however. He doesn't seem the type, and probably just does it for the sake of getting some peace and quiet whenever he's with the girl. Classic techniques.
But before that, I'm gonna show him to everyone first. It's gonna be great. No one else has a gazillionaire fairy godfather. Also, when I grow up, I'm gonna be exactly like him and marry someone really handsome, like Tia did. That way, I can be awesome too.
There's some sort of misguided logic in there that I'd like to correct. But before I can say my piece, douchebag steps in, fresh out of the commotion from the classroom behind us, and plows into the conversation with every subtlety a wrecking ball has. No shite given, despite no one asking for his opinion.
Munchkin, sweetie, trust me. You don't have to marry someone for that to happen.
I don't?
Just do your thing, darling. I'm quite sure you can do great things on your own without lugging around an extra baggage with you.
Tia married you.
Kylie drops the statement without any sort of preface, and the moment it lands, the douche finds himself grappling with the conversation.
Yeah, well, that's true, Munchkin, technically, but it's not the same thing.
A small frown creases the girl's eyebrows as she tries to comprehend her Tio's rather vague explanation. It's not surprising either when Luke tenses under the child's questioning gaze. It's familiar. I've seen the same look a great deal of times before on Ashton whenever he's trying to say something he can't quite phrase. Another second passes before the douche moves, kneeling in front of Kylie and placing both his hands on either sides of her shoulder. Kind is the last word I'll ever use to describe the man, but in this minute there's a smile on his face I can't place. Tender by all means for someone as obnoxious as him. It's a curious thing to see, if not a bit odd.
Listen here, sweetie. Tia was already a great person before she met me.
She is? But I don't see her doing anything. She's always at home.
Not always, Munchkin. Did you know she's really good at numbers?
You're good with them too. You helped me with my homework once.
Well, Tia's much better than me. She used to do maths with big numbers.
Oh, like millions?
No, gazillions. And she's really good at it. So much so that her dad let her manage anything that had to do with it. That was even before she met me, too.
Does that mean she's better than you?
Oh, leagues, Munchkin. Way better than I'll ever be.
For some reason, I don't think he's still talking about his wife's mathematical prowess, as his voice trails off. In fact, if I had not been paying closer attention, I wouldn't have noticed the change in him. The slight shift in his smile, from one that's tender to something wistful, like remembering a memory he's always been fond of, but has often kept to himself. And at the fleeting glance of it, a tiny, insignificant part of the world somehow also shifts. Opinions changing, impressions moving.
You know what? Why don't you ask Tia next time you have homework,
Okay, next time I'll ask her to help out.
See? No need to marry a good-for-nothing bloke.
Can I also tell her to not stay at home anymore? If Tia's good at it, I'm sure she can help you out too. And Papa. He computes a lot of numbers too. Tia can help him.
You go do that. I'm sure she'll love to hear it, Munchkin, even if it's been a while since.
Another silence from him, then without missing a beat, he turns Kylie around and lightly pats her shoulder in a gesture to end their conversation right there and here. Probably before he can say other things he's never intended to say, or a child is not meant to hear.
But off you go first. I think I saw your friend run off to the other classroom. The one with the pigtails? Go say hi to her. You still have those jelly babies to give her, yes?
All right, but wait for me, okay? I've got loads more to show you. They put up my drawing on the bulletin the other day. I'm gonna take you there later. I'll be back.
She soon disappears behind the small crowd, none the wiser to the sudden change in the mood around her. Luke straightens as soon as she's gone. The expression on his face grows less kind now, and there's no one to reassure. She just called him Luke. She hasn't called him douche. Wow, I'm in shock. Despite that, a chuckle still escapes me. His head quickly snaps at me, an accusing glare in his eyes. Although it's less threatening now, considering what I've witnessed earlier. Funny how one person's impression of someone can easily change with that minute detail.
Why are you laughing like that?
Minute. Why are you laughing like that?
Don't mind me. I just saw something surprising today. Don't let it bother you.
Putting it like that won't make me any less inclined to ask. What is it, woman? If this is another one of your threats, I've already told you it isn't going to work on me. That good teacher act isn't going to fool anyone.
What makes you think it has to do with you? I could have just remembered something funny. Not everything in this world revolves around you, mister.
I am not daft, Daisy. It's on your face for all the world to see. Now, say it so we can be done with this stupid talk.
I let out another laugh. More to delay than to express any sort of amusement over the matter. In truth, I don't know where to start. One wrong move, one wrong word, and I might offend the man. He's childish enough for that, even if what I'm about to say are just mere honest observations. I'm gonna say you're good at handling her. Because I feel like that's what she's thinking right now. Oh well, regardless of how he reacts, it's not like it'll have an impact on anything between us. I've no plans of getting too friendly with the man, though he might have some good points. Emphasis on might. The best treatment I can hope myself to give him is to stop thinking of him as a sleazy douche. Besides, after seeing that look on him, I figure someone like him can use a little compliment here and there. He probably doesn't get it much, considering how coarse his own language can get.
Can't you act a wee bit polite for even a second of your life? It won't kill you. You'll easily get answers that way, you know? Instead of demanding things from people like a temperamental man-child.
I'll be nice when I want to be, woman. Don't tell me what to do.
And here I was just thinking how you're doing a brilliant job as Kylie's guardian. Was I mistaken?
Was I mistaken? What? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Stop playing dumb. I hate to admit it, but you actually seem to be good with kids. Possibly even better than most of the teachers here. What do you know?
I've expected him to just take it all in, bloat his ego more, and even brag about it. Instead, what I get from him is a sound resembling a squawk. Or maybe that's him choking on his own pride. I can't tell above the hubbub surrounding us. But when I glance at him, only a mortified expression is on his face.
No.
No? You should be proud of yourself. At least there's this one good thing about you. Isn't that nice to hear? Pretty sure not a lot of compliments get thrown around about you, knowing how you are.
There are a lot of good things about me, Daisy. My hair, for one. There's also my extraordinary good looks. Wax lyrical about those all you want. I'd be happy to hear it any day. Praise anything about me but that.
What is so repulsive about it? Even Kylie likes you. Shouldn't that tell you anything about yourself?
Kylie is one kid, not even my own. Trust me, you do not want to see me bring a spawn of my own into this world. This will be an abomination.
You know, Luke, if that were going to be the case, you might want to keep your dick in your pants, because it's not working out for you so far.
Is that what you keep telling yourself?
Maybe. Is it any of your business?
No. But if I didn't know any better, I'd say this is because you yourself think you're a little piece of shite and somehow it'll pass on. It doesn't work like that, by the way.
That last remark just came out. There might be a sliver of truth in it, but I shouldn't have phrased it like that. Even for my own standards, or the kind of person I'm talking to, it's still quite rude. An apology is already at my throat, but the minute I open my mouth, all of what I prepared myself to say dissipates. Lost in the moment in front of me. He's turned his gaze outside, staring at some point past the buildings blocking the view of the sky, equally lost in his thoughts. He's a vexing man under so many standards. However, in this moment, the morning light streaming from the window lends his features a certain air. Softer, less severe than what he often flaunts. I might as well be looking at a different man. There's a tender note in his voice when he finds it. The words muttered under his breath, not intended for anyone but himself. Nevertheless, it reaches my ears, unintentional as it may be.
You're right. She deserves someone far better than me.
All that talk about self-worth makes some sense now. It isn't some profound knowledge he pulled out of his arse. It has come about because he's already been there, likely still stuck in the middle of it. Preaching about your own personal experience is easier, after all. Less room for mistakes, more room for a dose of self-loathing. What a complicated man. Just when you thought you've already figured him out, he does one thing and says the other. People like him are the most difficult to gauge, far harder to understand. Yet it might be exactly for this reason why some are so easily charmed by him. It's the mystery that catches them, of wanting to find out what's underneath that bravado. I won't count myself among those yet. His winning personality isn't exactly my cup of tea. But sometimes, once you get a glimpse of what's beyond the machismo, empathizing with the man isn't such a steep hill to climb. If the comfortable silence we now share tells us anything, that is. Perhaps this is as close to friendship as we can get. Several insults flung around, with a few shared silences in between, and that's not exactly a bad thing. He's not exactly a bad guy either, despite the awkward start we had. Maybe it's for this reason that I can resist throwing in a little comment to lift his mood before leaving him.
You know, Luke, you're not such a bad person.
Is that supposed to make me feel better? I'm touched, Daisy.
Take it how you will. But a little attitude change would help. A lot.
Bollocks. Right, of course. Let me know when you're done with your lecture, ma'am.
And you can probably start by not leaving your wife out while you're having some quality time with your goddaughter. Who knows? Maybe that'll help change how the child sees her.
Where did you even get the idea I'm leaving my wife out? Have you ever even met?
No, but I did see her with you two last time.
His indifferent expression quickly dissolves into a confused scowl, while I meet it with matching perplexity. It's only been 2 days. Surely his memory isn't that bad.
What? When was this?
At the cafe, after you left. She was sitting right beside you. Kylie was at the back and you were driving.
Daisy, are you sure you haven't accidentally hit yourself with your own book? Because that damn thing's quite big, and I'm really getting worried about you.
I told you it wasn't her. It was obviously the ghost sitting in the front car with Luke.
It has only been a few days, and concussions can be dangerous. I suggest you have that checked.
Well, you asked. I just answered. It's pretty rude to make her wait like that, by the way.
How can I make her wait when she's not even with us?
What?
It was just Kylie and I that night.
Now you're just pulling my leg.
Luke exhales long and drawn out. His impatience rapidly changes the companionable air around us. In the face of it, I tense. I've accidentally stepped into another minefield. Any chat I've had with him so far has been like this. Why this still surprises me escapes me, but above my worries of offending the man is my own bewilderment. I remember well enough what I saw that night, yet he says something completely different.
Wifey was out with Kylie's mummy that night. She wasn't with us. How do you think I ended up on babysitting duty?
But in the front seat. And Kylie's...
Miss Pink!
Kylie's sobs reach my ears first, and then her familiar weight returns around my waist again. Hot tears seep through my blouse as she buries her face in it, her arms winding tightly around me. Luke and I briefly exchange worried glances, his own lips shut tight with concern. Her cries are soft enough to not attract much attention. Most of the visitors have been ushered inside the rooms by now anyway. Those that still linger, though, watch our little group with interest and concern. Dog. She's the goofiest dog, sorry. If I don't get a better handle of the situation, I have a feeling Luke will start yelling at everyone soon. Kneeling, I gently pull the girl away from me, cupping her face and wiping away tears, creating little trails on her cheeks. Her mouth is drawn in a miserable pout when she peers up at me.
All right, Kylie, calm down. What happened?
It's my friend!
That's a little too vague, Munchkin.
Let her speak, Luke. Who is it, Kylie? Melody? Or was it the other one?
Yeah.
Did the two of you fight?
She nods, then immediately clams up after letting her sobs communicate the story instead, or as much as her shaking shoulders can tell me. Right behind me, Luke gives a nervous huff while he shifts on his feet. He must not be used to handling children crying. What a wuss.
Sweetie, I won't be able to help you if you don't tell me what happened.
Seconds pass before she responds again. The tears are already gone when she finally musters the strength to talk, her cries subsiding to mere sniffles.
I wanted to give her the rest of the jelly babies, but she won't come out.
Where? Where is she?
In the little girl's room.
Is she still there?
Another nod.
She won't say what's wrong. I kept asking her, but she told me to go away. Career day's going to start soon. I saw the prizes Miss Alice will give us for good. She's gonna miss it.
Is that what you told her?
Yeah, she won't listen. She won't even take the jelly babies. After I saved it for her, too. She and Luke wanted to eat the red ones, but I told him it's not for him. Miss Pink, can you talk to her? Tell her to come out, and I'm really upset with her.
Ah, just a little childish argument then. Times like this, I'm glad I teach teenagers mature enough for petty squabbles. I do love being around children and won't mind having one or two of my own in the future, but it takes a whole different level of patience to teach several of them. I honestly admire my colleagues who willingly took the challenge. Normally, I'll leave this for homeroom teachers to fix, but I can't just ignore the imploring look she shoots at me. That's another weakness I'll have to steel myself against before I ever think of having one of my own. For now, I give in to it.
Okay, tell me where she is, sweetie.
Sighing, I stand up and gesture for her to lead the way. Luke trails quietly behind us. Even with the small distance in between, his apprehension is palpable. Understandably so. No one wants to be caught in the middle of a children's spat. But in the end, this is all just a part of the job. I can't just shy away from it, can I? Kylie escorts us to an adjacent hall. At this hour, the corridors and the rooms lining its sides are empty. Save for the gentle rustling of leaves, the twittering of birds outside, and the tapping of our foot against the floor, the whole area stays eerily quiet. Not unusual, though. This is the part of the building reserved for club activities at the end of the school day. Ooh, doki doki! And with the rest of the school busy with another event, it's only natural for it to be this deserted. I wonder if Monica's around. That would be great if Monica showed. Oh my god. I want somebody to mod that in so badly. Just have the 4 girls come out and be like, oh, we're just going to our literature club. Don't mind us. Come afternoon right after class. It'll once again be filled with people. For the time being, I focus on the toilets at the far end, heading straight for it. Luke stays behind, opting to wait for the end of this drama instead, obviously not wanting to deal with another person's kid. Meanwhile, Kylie follows right after me, unusually silent as we approach the ladies' room. Sometime before we made the turn down the hallway, she stopped sniffling and started singing a tune under her breath.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down.
This kid is so creepy.
London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady.
Stop singing. Probably to brace her, calm herself, or maybe this is her way of preparing to pull her friend out of her sulk. It certainly reminds me of another person. I make no remarks on it, however. It's all part of growing up, they say. Let her learn. The door is slightly ajar when we get to it, and from inside the sobs of a girl echo weakly. Barely audible, even if it's in this kind of hush. Ooh, I don't like that. Turns out Kylie's not the only one upset about this. Despite the situation, a smile forms on my lips as I call out to her friend.
Hello? Hello there? You're Kylie's friend, aren't you? Melody, is it? She's looking for you.
Children could be so amusing sometimes. Granted, they can be exasperating, especially around this age, but the endearing things about them outweigh those. All you need is a level of patience.
Career day's about to start, too. You'll have to come out, or you're going to be really late for it. Miss Alice won't be happy if one of her kids isn't there. I heard she brought little gifts for everyone who'll behave. Don't you want to receive one?
However, her cries show no signs of abating. They only grow louder. Not close to a wail. Alarming, regardless.
Are you okay?
Sounds more like she's trying to hold back a laugh. Listen to that. Doesn't it sound like she's trying to laugh? See? I'm telling you, that's a laugh. From where I'm standing, it sounds almost like she's in some kind of pain, and it's not impossible. They do that at times, hiding what ails them for a fear of reprimand. If it's like that, coaxing her out might be useless. It also makes sense why she chose the loo farthest from the classroom. Wasting no time, I gesture for Kylie to wait and amble towards the door, calmly so I don't alarm her. At the same time, a distinct sense of deja vu hits me. I've been in this position before, behind a door with someone crying on the other side, my calls ignored as their cries grow into a wail. Just this past week, actually. Even so, being in the same situation before doesn't bring any comfort. I'm putting up for the child beside me, is this thick undercurrent of worry trickling into my stomach. I take one last breath and I nudge the door open. It all happens in the span of a second. I don't make it past 2 steps into the room. Her cries abruptly stop. Light footsteps shuffle behind me, coming to a halt at the door. My heart skips a beat. And when I turn...
Kylie?
Ew! Kids are so creepy. There's always a creepy kid, I swear. It's endless. There is always a creepy child.
Miss Pink? Miss Pink? Why didn't you help her?
My whole body becomes motionless at the sight of her, words catching in my throat and heart pounding rapidly against my chest. This is Kylie, I'm sure of it. Yet nothing in the manner she speaks or the way she tilts her head in question carries the youthful, innocent vibe she always brings with her. As if I'm merely looking at a dead, hollow imitation of the child.
Can't you hear her? She's asking for your help.
But it's not those that trigger a memory. It's those chilling eyes, calling, beckoning.
Why won't you listen to her?
All at once the memory returns to me. A tide that has receded and now returns to shore with an overwhelming force, carrying in images of a single moment from days ago. Of a world passing by in a blur, and of features I can barely discern under the little light there was. Not even a week has passed. In this minute, while I keep my eyes trained on the child before me, they return with such unbearable clarity. There are no horrid wounds this time, no blood streaming down a pale face, thank heavens. Just lips contorted into a smile, a twisted smile. They brim with venom I've never expected to ever see in a child, sending tiny pinpricks of dread crawling up my limbs and winding up my back. Or neck, sorry. Ooh, you're a bad person. People like you deserve to die. Miss Pink. I can't breathe. Those whispers and laughters again. Judging, mocking, taunting. Each scathing word ringing sharp and true against my ears. My throat closes in. My whole body tenses. A chill settles at the tips of my fingers, every digit gone rigid from the cold. With every single draw of breath, any struggle for air or freedom, the coils wrapped around my body tighten, dragging me down. A gradual, torturous descent into another bottomless abyss. On and on and on, until I lose touch with myself and the world.
Help me!
Until darkness claims me and, unexpectedly, a note. In the distance, harsh and piercing, cutting through the thick stupor and shattering the haze without warning.
Are you ladies done with your business here? I'll have all morning to wait for you two.
My eyes snap open and the world shifts into place with a ragged gasp. When I glance up, a different set of eyes greet me.
Are you okay, Miss Pink?
No anger, no vile hatred in them, just plain, sincere concern. Bit by bit, I become aware of my surroundings, and myself as warmth steadily slips back to me. I reached out for the nearby counter to steady myself at some point, and my knuckles have gone white from how rigid my grip on it is. It's over now, yet the tension hasn't left my body. My heart still hammers against my chest in an erratic rhythm. My breathing still comes in short, shallow bursts. Before me, Kylie fumbles with her hands, utterly unsure of what to do to an adult in what's probably a laughable state.
Did you get sick? I'll call Tio, okay? Stay here and don't move.
No. No need. Just leave me alone.
Tio will know how to fix you. Oh, wait, okay?
I wish I can speak reassurances to her, but I can't shake it off. The dread is there, twisting at my insides in anticipation. Of what? I'm no longer sure. Pushing myself off the counter, I break off into a run, brushing off the anxious look Kylie gives me when I gently push her away on my way out, or the furrow in Luke's brows when I stumble into him outside. Whatever they both saw on my face, I care not to know. Bloody hell, I don't even understand what's happening anymore. The tremors continue long after the last of my classes has ended. Although none of my students have commented on it, I've caught a few sharing anxious glances. Every time a pen slips by my hand, or my shoulders tense whenever called. However unusual it must be for them to see the normally composed Miss Gales become a bundle of nerves. Even the most boisterous ones have given me less grief today. Ooh, matcha? You'd think being on my 4th cup of tea would provide any sort of comfort. Or is this the 5th? Yeah, why does counting matter now? The fact that I can't easily shake it off this time should tell me something. Last time this happened, I passed it off as some lapse on my part, after having been sick the week before.
And it is a natural conclusion.
Those are just stories. A century-old lore passed by the locals to keep children in line. No place doesn't have those. One of my dad's books even went as far as to describe them as a strong part of Isabella's culture. Tree giants, women who feed unborn children straight from the mother's womb. Feed on unborn children, ew. Or hell, there's even that one story about a demon baby. All folklore that had a smidgen of truth in it, most probably to scare off the natives there back in the old days. Much like every other one in every other place. The world is more universal than people care to think. But looking at it from where I'm standing now, after staring right into the eyes of the woman, after all the things I've been hearing and feeling, perhaps there's really more to that bloody letter than some awful Halloween prank.
Perhaps Isabella's right all along.
A terrible thing, if true. Though that doesn't linger long, thankfully. Soon the ringing of my mobile takes my attention away from it. An unfamiliar name flashes before me, once the screen lights up and my brows knit together. Marianne McCullough. Staring hard at the screen, I try to remember when I've entered this person on my contact list. It takes a moment, but when it clicks, my eyes zero in on the book lying wide open on the table. Loans out from the library almost a week ago. Oh yeah! I met the woman there by sheer coincidence, a fellow history buff apparently. We were after the same book, but in the end she's given it to me under the condition that I call her once I'm done. To be honest, I've completely forgotten about it until now, and well, I haven't really taken a peek at it until today. Normally I'd be done with the whole volume of this size a few days after taking it out, about 1 or 2 depending on how busy I am. But finding a chance to sit down and read through it has been more difficult lately than I anticipated. One moment I'm busy simply grading worksheets, attending a movie premiere the next, then someone suddenly inviting me out for one reason or another. Days later, a friend stops showing up at her flat, right after worrying reports pop up in the local news. There simply isn't enough time to breathe and get a grip on things. I have been flipping through the pages of said book moments ago, though never really reading anything and merely hoping for a distraction, to no avail. My phone gives out another ring, and this time I do not hesitate to answer.
Marianne?
Hello! Here I was starting to wonder if it was a bad time to call. Is it?
No, not at all. I dismissed my last class a few minutes ago. I'm pretty much free for the rest of the afternoon, unless something comes up. Is this about last time? The book?
Not really. I was hoping to ask you about some other thing.
Oh, sure. What about?
You grew up in this city, didn't you?
It's a peculiar question to ask someone you've just met, but I answer her nevertheless. I'm more cautious where she's heading with this by starting with that.
Born and raised, 3rd-generation migrant. Why do you ask?
So, you must be familiar with the local lore. The, stories?
Quite. If I'm going to teach about history, I'd like to think I am, yeah? But a family friend would be a better person to ask. If you want, I can contact him for you.
No, let's just keep this thing between us, okay? It's nothing too big. Alright, I really don't know how else to put this without sounding a bit crazy. But things have been really, odd. Do you remember the mansion I mentioned back when we met? My current project?
In hindsight, I should have expected it'll lead to this. She must not have lived here long, if she's just asking about this now. Didn't take a week with Isabella when she arrived, but that's Isabella, superstitious down to the last hair. Though it won't be too far off to think Marianne has only started thinking about this recently. She's working on the damn house itself. I must admit, even I'm curious now, despite living here for so many years and having so many chances to look it up before.
The Ermengarde Mansion, yes?
Yes, that one. And, the thing is... Oh dear, this is a bad idea. You know what?
Just spit it
forget
out.
I ever called you about this.
It must have been the sunny weather. It's making me sick and see stupid things. See things?
No, wait. It's all right. I don't mind.
There's a moment's pause before she responds again. She's right in that this is a silly thing to talk about, especially between what I assume two people who are pretty grounded on their beliefs with regards to these things. I won't blame her if she hesitates.
I can't believe I'm asking you about this.
It's fine. Why don't you just think of it as some form of research?
Well, all right. But after this, we're going to forget we ever had this talk.
My lips will be sealed. Now, what is it about the mansion?
Just, what do you know about it? The general gist. The place's past. What happened to the owners? Anything you can give me.
Let's see. To start off,
I do my best to give her a concise summary, from the time the house was commissioned 400 years ago and who had built it, up to the point it got deserted after the last heir's death and the deed was passed on to the Ermengarde's nearest relatives. Frankly, if it weren't for those urban legends persisting, the house would have already faded into obscurity long ago. Demolished, even. These are all nothing she probably hasn't heard before, yet there's dissatisfaction in her tone once I finish.
That's all there really is to it?
as far as I know, there's this little bit I forgot to mention about Lady Charlotte Ermengarde's death, but most of those are just theories. Aside from that, this is really everything we've been teaching all these years. Should there be anything more?
No mention of any other weird stuff? Other crazy stories? Or a letter
God.
of some sort?
My blood runs cold. Any warmth and comfort the tea I've drank has given me prior has instantly been drained out of me. The phone creaks softly as my light hold on it turns into a firm grip. This whole letter bullshit is starting to turn into more than a coincidence.
None that I've heard or read of. What does a letter have to do with this?
Oh, no. It was just something I came across. Ignore it. Random thoughts, you know? By the way, I need to run. Thanks for answering my questions.
She ends the call abruptly with only a clipped goodbye, leaving my mind heavy with even more thoughts. The mood around my classroom has gone considerably denser in light of what I've gleaned from that conversation. I don't think Marianne's lying about her intent. Her interest is genuine, I'd give her that, but she's left a lot of things out. I get the sense she's only asked because something's happened around her too, and if she hadn't mentioned the letter, I probably wouldn't have made the connection.
Just what the hell did we get ourselves into?
Of course, there's still a lot of confusing details in this. All of these are just assumptions. No concrete conclusion can be formed from what we have, and if we want to find out what we're really dealing with, I think Marianne's right. There might be something more to these stories. As absurd as it sounds, the place that gave us that letter might tell us something beyond what we know. Tomorrow night, I have a few hours of that chance at the housewarming party. Totally not an exciting thought, since the place is privately owned now. I can't just wander around. But it's enough reason to keep the dread at bay as I step out of the room ready to put an end to this day. Oh God, go away, Luke! However, all those good vibes disappear into thin air when I run headfirst into Luke. There's really something in this man, like aggravation. Regardless of how much my opinion of him has changed over the span of a few hours, he simply blasts through every good impression people have of him without care or thought. He doesn't even need to open his mouth. His mere presence does it. In all honesty, I think he's the kind of guy only a mother could love.
You're still here?
Obviously. Who do you think standing in front of you?
An ass.
Oh, come on, Daisy. You've done better than that. Losing your touch?
Luke, I don't have time for this. I'm heading home, and your face is the last thing I want to see before I leave. What do you want?
Belatedly, I notice his hand. partly raised, almost poised for a knock. At a slight lift of an eyebrow, he quickly drops it to his side and turns to Kylie. She's standing a few steps away from him, holding her hands behind her back and towing at something on the floor with the tip of her shoe. Then he proceeds to make vague gestures at me and the child. He resembles a fish flopping for air with the way his arms moving. Though I think he's trying to urge her to speak up.
Munchkin, I thought you wanted to tell her something.
You do it, Teal.
This wasn't my idea, darling.
Don't worry. I won't tell Teal what you told me the other day. And this morning.
Luke exhales, rolling his eyes at the ceiling and maybe praying for the universe to grant him more patience. He knows a losing battle when he sees one. He may act worse than a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum at times, but he's no match for an actual child. Nothing better than being served a dose of his own medicine, huh? Once his frustration has been promptly let out, he points a rude finger at me. I do my best to stare the offending digit down, but I can already hear the demand before it's even out of his lips.
You, come with us.
What makes you think I will?
Because little Rugrat here is upset and worried, and it's your bloody fault. I've no idea what happened this morning, but if you don't come with us, I won't be hearing the end of it from her. So do me a favor, Daisy, and just be glad I'm inviting you.
You're asking for a favor, and you can't be bothered to be polite? I don't know. It's been a really busy day for me. I kind of miss my couch.
Daisy, you
I kind of miss mine, too.
say yes.
A pause follows, almost too dramatic. Afterwards, his face twists into something between a grimace and a smile. As it happens, he appears like he's in a lot of physical pain. You'd think the man is getting an aneurysm by simply being polite.
Please?
Teal said it'll be his treat.
Oh, we're going to get parfaits, aren't we?
What? I said no such thing, Munchkin. I only agreed to this because you requested it. I'm under no obligation to feed her.
I promise we'll be quiet the next time I visit.
Oh, all right, but just one meal and make it the cheapest.
He and Ashton will get along famously on that department. On a different front, the offer of free dinner does sound enticing, however half-heartedly it is. Mostly because Kylie has wisely put on her puppy eyes, and by the second I find all my choices slipping away from me.
See, Miss Pink? It'll be fun. You don't have to feel sad anymore, okay?
Oh, well,
My mobile buzzes from my pocket, cutting me mid-sentence for a second. I'm spared from the act of giving an actual answer I'll regret either way. Fishing the gadget out, I wave a hand at him and excuse myself. A disgruntled expression is on Luke's face before I turn away. I'd be lying if I said it didn't amuse me. He's as eager to be done with this as I am, but what can I do? Checking a message from Ashton shows up. Hey Becca, I'll be around Salem all this evening. Need to meet someone in the area. I might have to drop by yours and Isabella's place after. See ya. Oh. Just the usual. Unlike what he does to Zachary, Ashton has the decency to let us know when he's dropping by or he's in the area for some business. From the way it's phrased, it sounds like it'll be the latter. Either way, I'm glad he's at least aware of that boundary. Not that Isabella's ever going to let him leave the building unscathed if he ever pulls the same stunt he does with the other men. I cringe to imagine what she'd do to him. Sighing, I slip the gadget back to my pocket. But looking up to see Luke's utter impatience on his face, I now face a different dilemma. The two of them are still waiting, and knowing the kind of person Luke is, this is already a grand gesture of goodwill coming from him. All to please his godchild. His denials aside, it's easy to tell he's really fond of Kylie from his actions alone. I kinda hate to ruin that.
Well, Daisy, we're waiting here.
On the other hand, there's Ash. His message doesn't exactly imply he's going to wait or he's expecting me to be there. But there are matters I hope to discuss with him in person, to put it simply. Housewarming party matters. With inviting Isabella out of the question, I only have Zachary and Ashton. Although the former has already made it clear he'll be busy this week, and well, Ashton has been my first choice from the start. Even if he detests attending gatherings like this. It's company that counts. We can be miserable together. But that's the problem, isn't it? He hates them, and it's very likely his answer will be a flat no. I'd rather not hear that. If, by some miracle, he agrees to it, he'll probably be sulking the whole party. Not really a tough choice when you put it like that. Still. Tough choice, but I have to pick one. We're going with Luke, because, you know what? I mean, number one, There is absolutely no reason to subject Ashton to a housewarming party that he doesn't want to go to. And we all know he doesn't want to go to it. Number 2, this girl has not said anything to Ashton in 2 decades of knowing him. I mean, there is absolutely no reason to think that she'd start now. You know what I mean? So, we're going to go with Kylie and this jerkhead. So, we're just going to do that. In the end, it's my own fondness of Kylie that wins out. Chances are, I'll only have to endure his presence for an hour or so. If it lasts more than that, I can make up an excuse. A sudden call from a friend or things to work on. Doesn't seem so bad when I think of the pros and cons. At best, it'll be a quiet dinner. At worst, it'll be an awkward affair we're both eager to get out of. I'm leaning more on the latter happening, hoping for the former, of course.
Okay, but only because Kylie asked.
Kylie's face instantly lights up. For the 3rd time today, she tackles me into a hug before pulling away and dragging me by the hand towards the building's exit.
That's alright. I'm sure Teal doesn't mind. He let me pick where we're going to eat. Don't worry, it's just close.
Luke follows closely behind, and perhaps out of some desire to keep the dead air away, I can't resist throwing in a quip.
Keep your distance. You better not do anything funny, you hear?
I'm the one who should keep my distance. May I remind you who approached me first and what you did right after?
Oh, I remember it clearly. But perhaps it's you who needs a reminder. You seem to have never learned your lesson. Care we give it another try? Maybe this time it'll stick.
Maybe this time it'll stick. You think you're scary? I'll show you what's scary.
To my surprise, his tone lacks the usual sardonic note in it, and briefly I pause to stare at him. He quickly shuts his mouth right after and walks ahead of us. All talk and no trousers like usual, and for the better part of our walk, except for Kylie's excited chatter, we don't speak. Somehow I have this strange feeling I'm already getting used to this kind of banter with him. I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing. And amidst this newfound friendship, dare I call it that, Ashton's message lays forgotten and abandoned in my pocket. Of all the places nearest to the school, Kylie picks this one, and waiting for food to be served is as awkward as I've imagined it would be. Not the bad sort, though. The pleasant kind. Surprisingly, Luke's an okay bloke when he tries. So long as you're willing to look past the tactless remarks or we're not exchanging acerbic quips. It's clear he's making an effort for this to be as fun as possible for the 6-year-old by being chattier. Even going as far as to laugh when Kylie's story calls for it. It's an interesting thing to hear from the man. More than once, I catch his frequent cheesed-off expression easing whenever he looks at the girl.
And your friend? Did you make up with her?
Yep. She said she just saw something she didn't like. She didn't accept the jellies, though. She told me to give it to you instead. She knows you like the red ones, too.
Very well. Hand it to me later. I'll bring some of them home. I think your Tia would love to have some.
What a terrible liar. He says he dislikes the idea of having children of his own, but it's easy to see some part of him genuinely wants them. What's stopping him? Once Kylie wanders to the nearby bookshelves, after having lost interest in the conversation, however, we both revert back to silence. On our own, we have a little talk about, aside from a few questions about the other here and there. At one point, it does veer into the local politics and history. He's surprisingly versed with it that he can hold a decent conversation without throwing a jibe. Nothing too personal is ever mentioned so far, though. It's too early for those, and besides, I don't like him enough to speak of every minute detail of my life. It's like the 6th time I've used the word minute. I mean, what? Better keep it strictly between the silence and the casual repartee. This whole thing already looks and feels wrong on so many levels. I'm quite sure he feels the same. So when another bout of silence hits us and becomes too much, I've taken to find something else to occupy myself. Toying with my mobile, turning it from my hand to hand, while we wait for our respective meals. But it'll be a complete lie if I say I'm not waiting for some intervention. Something to pull me away from this place. Someone. Ashton's probably at Salem by this time, working in whatever business he has there. Maybe if I make up an excuse and leave now, I can still catch him?
Cut that out, it's distracting.
My hand stills, holding the gadget awkwardly between us, arrested mid-pass by his bored tone. He's been quiet for a long minute now, after complaining about how appalling the tea they're serving here is. Before that, he's whined about how uncomfortable his chair is and tasteless the decorations they have here. Previous to that, he has griped about how dull the place is compared to the one he frequents on the upper class side of the city. Well, I'm sorry for being a bunch of peasants, Your Majesty. Figures he'll lose patience soon, having already grumbled about almost everything his eyes can reach. It's just unfortunate he's turned to me now.
Why don't you just look somewhere else?
I can't. If I turn elsewhere, I might end up looking at the bobfuck right behind us.
It's a bobfuck.
Bobfuck? Do I even want to ask?
I don't want to hear it. I do. What the hell is a bobfuck? If it's coming out of his mouth, it can only be either rude or offensive. Regardless, he continues.
Everything looks good. But have you seen the face?
Oh.
True horror.
What is wrong with you? You know, I frown about this in practice, but that mouth needs to be washed out with a particularly potent soap, preferably by your own mum.
A shame she isn't here.
For whatever reason, that puts an end to the talk right away. He returns to watching his godchild, who has found a particularly interesting picture book and is now poring over it, while I turn back to my mobile. Still no message. Would it kill him to at least send a message, check if I were home? Meanwhile, Luke's silence lasts all but 10 seconds.
What is it with the damn mobile? Are you on a curfew?
He's got the immature act down pat, I'll give him that. Seriously, how old is this guy? Has he somehow been deprived of affection during childhood?
And what is it to you? I don't think it's any of your business what I do with it.
It is my business, all right? 1, I'm the one paying here. 2, I'm being forced to eat dinner in a place this stuffed and noisy. Lastly, it's been 10 minutes, the food isn't here, and I'm hungry. What you're doing with the mobile is annoying and distracting, when the least you could do is keep things entertaining while I suffer.
You know, I'm kind of with him on this. It really, really drives me absolutely crazy when people use their phone at the table. It's like, could you just put it down for a minute? I once actually had to bribe one of my best friends to let me pay his bar tab if he put his damn phone away for an hour. No joke. I paid his bar tab just to keep him off the phone for an hour.
That's your problem? Shouldn't you be more worried about how this entire affair looks to other people?
Oh, I didn't realize this was one. You move fast, Daisy. You could have informed me first, you know. Had I known, I would have taken you someplace nicer.
Oh my god.
Certainly the kind with better food and plenty of good wine.
Why did I ever think this was a good idea? Did it ever occur to you how inappropriate this might look to everyone?
Why should I care? It's only inappropriate if you make it out to be. Relax. I won't do anything to make your boyfriend angry. He doesn't even need to know we dined out. It'll be our dirty little secret.
He's not my boyfriend!
The words come out of my mouth with more force than I've intended. By the time I realize my slip-up, his lips are already spread in a sneer. He slowly crawls up my face.
Oh, so there is someone. You're so easy to read.
Briefly, his eyes search my face. I have no idea what he sees, nor do I care to know, but in the next second he barks out a laugh, displaying his amusement without reserve to everyone within earshot. In that moment, I know I've flipped a switch in him somewhere and I've lost my chance to deny his assumptions. Do I even want to? Isn't that the reason why I've been so focused on my mobile, waiting for another message from him? For a reason to dump this awkward meeting to go after him?
Look how mottled you are. Now the nickname makes more sense. Shy Miss Pink and her cute little crush. The color suits you, by the way. It matches the hair.
It's not a crush!
Classic denial. But in reality, you want him to be yours, and your every move is made to make him notice you. In fact, you don't want him to see you with another man in a non-professional capacity, because he might misinterpret it.
The same thing goes for you, doesn't it? Bloody, yours is even worse. What about your wife? Aren't you concerned she might misinterpret this?
Daisy, just because we tied the knot doesn't mean we have to be joined at the hip at every single opportunity.
Don't be ridiculous.
Why else would you marry her if you don't want to be with her for the rest of your lives?
Because, Daisy, she also has other things she can do with her life and friends to spend time with. Granted, I don't like some of them, and I have a few of my own she utterly dislikes. But wifey doesn't have to know my every move. Nor do I hers. Do you know how boring that would be? To be with the same person for all hours of the day, losing sleep over the mere fact they're not with you, or putting everything you have aside to please them, to have your whole world revolve around one person.
Aren't you just mistaking that for something else? Unlike you, there are other people here who don't share the same jaded outlook you have. Don't lump everyone together just because it didn't work out for you.
I mean, I still kind of agree with the guy. I'm old enough to know that, like, yeah, you can love somebody and you get married and you'd be faithful to that person, but at the same time, there are days, or I mean parts of the day at the very least, where you just don't want to be around them all the time. It gets tiresome and annoying, you know? But I mean, like, sometimes you just need time to yourself, man. I mean, I'm right there with him.
And you, my dear, are unexpectedly naive.
What's so naive about it? If you love each other, wouldn't you want to always see them? Be with them? To have them focus solely on you?
No, because that shit gets boring.
Maybe you haven't been loved enough.
Oh, it's that kind of thing for you, isn't it? The love is eternal, love is a strong emotion shite. A starry-eyed girl pining for her dashing Prince Charming? What's next? Romantic confessions of love? A grand wedding on the beach? Dozens of spawns running around in some picturesque home in the suburbs? How quaint. Are you also expecting it's going to be sunshine and rainbows after? A happily ever after? Please.
What? I never once said... And is all of that such a bad thing to hope for?
No, but you do kind of have to come to terms with the fact that you're gonna want downtime. I mean, it's natural and it's perfectly healthy to not want to spend like every waking minute with someone. It's really not a bad thing.
Woman, I've been married for 7 years, and I'm telling you, it's far from what you have in your pretty red head. Tell me, how long has this song and dance been going for you and your man? Maybe I am mistaken.
Averting my eyes from him is all I managed to do. What does this mere 7 years have compared to the 17 I've had with Ash? You don't have Ash, woman! You haven't said a word to him! It's ridiculous! Ah! It's laughable he thinks those two things are even comparable. You're right. He's got an actual relationship. You have a, oh, I can't tell him, but should I tell him, but I can't tell him thing going on. That's not the same. Ash and I may have never moved beyond the boundaries of friendship, like what I'm hoping for years. But what we have isn't something anyone can scoff at. You've got a friendship. I have a freaking relationship with a jacket I have in my closet for longer than that. I mean, come on. I've always been by his side, endured everything with him. I know him better than anyone. No matter what this man, this complete stranger says, I know there will always be a place for me beside him. Oh my god, she's gonna be real upset when he actually moves on and gets married someday. Like, for real upset. And yet...
Come on, Daisy, that shouldn't be too hard. 3, 5, 8, 10, 20...
His words easily seep into my heart like sharp daggers, casually picking apart everything I've ever been sure of. Despite myself, the doubts resurface and my defenses crumble right in front of my eyes. It's no wonder he sees through me, and as expected, he ridicules it. Restrained, low and rumbling, a sharp sound striking the air around us, amidst the murmur of people and the soft notes of the music playing over our heads. His shoulders shake, and when his mirth becomes too much for even him, he reaches up a hand and passes it over his face as if to hold his glee close to him.
Lordy bullocks, this is just brilliant. Oh, mother, why do I always keep running into these things? This day couldn't get any better. I think I'm gonna need a stiff drink after this.
He dissolves into another peal of laughter, but when it subsides, what he has for me are more words. Scathing, each of them. The urge to run from here has never been this strong.
Is everything you said how you plan to act, if that man of yours ever ends up with you? Cling to him? Put him on a bloody pedestal? Let him become the center of your universe? Although with how long this seems to be going on, I think you've already done so. Marriage will just be icing on the top. Like some sort of reward for you, isn't it? For being a good, patient, loyal little girl all this time. Never looking at another man. He must have been having a grand time with someone pining over him this long. I'm a little envious, to be honest. Maybe also a little surprised he hasn't suffocated from all your attention yet.
Laugh all about it if you want. It's not like you'll ever understand.
Luke falls silent. The ridicule in him is gone in an instant, and his eyes meet mine, sharp and imposing. A challenge, but I hold it against him with the same intensity. Because if there's something I won't let this opinion trample on, it's this. What does he know? However, he's the first one who looks away, focusing his eyes back to where Kylie is, and for a moment, I believe I've won. Until he draws in a breath and turns back to me. The words he drops next, though hushed, hang heavily in the distance between us.
You're right. I won't. But I do know not to mistake love for obsession, woman. They are not the same thing.
It rattles. Out of everything he said tonight, this is the one thing that twinges my heart. Maybe it's in the manner he delivers it, the lack of conceit in his posture, or an underlying insult in the tones he takes. The remark is not meant to cut, merely to express a simple truth. This time it's him who holds gaze against mine. Another unspoken challenge, and I realized that if this happened minutes before, I'd already have an equally searing retort at the tip of my tongue. There is none. But the anger is there, ringing at my sides, prodding at the uncertainties I've long kept. Isn't it enough? We have the long years we've been together. We have the memories. Whenever he needs me, until other people came in between us, I've always been the one there. Oh my god, she is crazy. That dedication and loyalty should mean something, shouldn't it? Yeah, it means you're his friend. Way to go. I've always been sure of it, and that one day he'll see it for what it is. In spite of that, in this minute, under this man's scrutiny, my own heart wavers. Now I struggle to find the words. I don't need to answer that. We're just gonna leave it at that. However, those are for me to ponder on. This arse doesn't need to hear them, and neither is he entitled to them just because he dished out some profound-sounding life wisdom no one asked for. So I look away, hoping my own silence would be enough of an answer for him. And it is, for a moment, up until warm, furious tears trickle behind my eyes, stinging, begging for release, along with every other frustration this dumb talk has built up in me. All because of this man. I hate him. I hate the fact that he has to be the one to see me in this sorry state. I'm already expecting another barb from him when his expression shifts. Except he panics. In the span of 3 seconds, his expression changes from indifferent to concerned to utter panic. It would probably have been funny if it weren't so irked by the sight of this something bastard.
Hey, are you crying? Are you going to cry? Stop that right now, woman, or I'll...
Will you shut up?
He clams up almost before I could finish. Whether this is due to the sudden force of my voice or how I look, I pretend not to think of it. He seems like a deer caught in the headlights, with the way he's making himself smaller in his seat. But I'm still pissed. I'm tired, and if I can't punch him, I can at least scream at him.
You're an annoying bag of dick, you know that? If I hear another word from you, I'm sewing that bloody mouth shut myself!
It does do the trick. Not to the effect I've hoped, but the moment I've snapped at him, the stinging at the back of my eyes melts away, and a strange calm overcomes me. A fragile thing when found in the middle of a busy coffee shop. Nevertheless, it's appreciated, considering it doesn't last. Immediately broken by the very person that put me in this state with a few awkward pats to my shoulder. Done twice. Thrice. And another. Until my patience runs out again, and I'm pulling out the book from my bag, raising it threateningly over his head. It surely will dent his skull if it slams down at his height. This height. Part of me wants to see that, but I restrain myself. He has the good sense to recoil, though. Shortly, he shrinks back to his seat and waves his hand in front of him in a gesture to surrender.
Watch that book, woman! I already warned you about your little threats. You don't want to see my brand of angry!
Then keep your hands to yourself!
All right, that's it, people these days. I swear you treat them nicely, and this is where it gets me.
You're the last person I'd ever want to comfort me. Even if you don't flatter yourself.
Sorry.
Okay, have it your way, Daisy.
And stop calling me Daisy! I have a name, you know!
He mutters something inaudible under his breath, although afterwards he doesn't say anything further. For the next minute, he simply contents himself with making a mess out of the paper napkins, folding them into clean shapes without any clear intent before crumpling them in his hand when he loses interest and dumping them in a small pile in front of him. A waiter serves our meal soon enough, and Kylie makes her way back to our table. But before I can take a single bite, he mutters something. The words spoken in the same tone he's used since this morning, all under his breath whenever the honest part of him would show. Despite my rather confusing opinion of the man, I stopped short of shoving my food in my mouth to look at him. His eyes are on his food as he speaks, busying himself with cutting a portion of meat on his plate. But what comes out of him only rings true against my ears above the din of the coffee house.
For what it's worth, Rebecca, I didn't ever think that's all there is to you. Why else would I leave my own goddaughter in your care if you're just some lovesick woman?
He spears a piece of food, pops it in his mouth, and that's it. One whole day with this man, and I still can't figure out what his deal is. But for what it's worth as well, I don't think he's an entirely bad guy. The rest of our meal slips by in a silence afterwards. Aside from Kylie's occasional chatter, the whole dinner goes by without another word exchanged between the two of us. Somehow we managed to make it through the whole thing without triggering another tension-riddled conversation. A good thing, perhaps. One, because Kylie's sitting in front of us, and two, I probably wouldn't be able to hold a proper conversation with my mind heavy with thoughts. We depart from the coffee house just as the evening crowd starts to thin out. The same wordless silence fills our short walk back to the school, except for when Luke gestures at a nearby flower shop and enters it without waiting for Kylie and I. He emerges minutes later after, carrying a bouquet of daffodils with the same softened expression back on his face. Unlike the previous ones, he tucks this one away almost as soon as he looks up at us, a moment he's not willing to share. At my confusion, he merely answers with a shrug and continues walking.
For someone important.
I accept it for what it is, if only because he doesn't owe me an explanation. It does leave more questions about him, each one as baffling as the previous ones. Those are the last words spoken this evening before we head our own ways. Up until I arrive home, I still can't understand him. Whew. Okay, guys, we are going to leave this here for right now. That was a long bunch of reading. I'm really liking this. Like, Rebecca's story isn't that bad. I do like her interaction with Luke. And I like Luke. Luke's actually not a bad guy. And he's totally right in some respects. I mean, I've got to give him that. But anyway, if you like this video, please hit the like button down below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video from me. I know you guys are loving this, as I am. Follow me on Twitter at PCGamerGirl and catch me on Twitch at PCGamerGirlYT. And I will see you guys tomorrow for another episode. Have a good one. Bye. Okay, guys, we're going to leave it there for today, and we'll pick it up in another episode. If you like this episode, please hit the like button down below and subscribe to my channel. That would be awesome. Or you can follow me on Twitter at PCGamerGirl. See you next time.